Deuteronomy 16, in the mentioning of all of these great festival days, there is this admonition that when you appear before the Lord on these days, that you not come before Him empty-handed. Now, it might sound threatening, or you might say, Lord, that's a lot of chutzpah. It's not chutzpah. Let me just give to you some wonderful details on that text. Our forefathers who came to this country nearly 400 years ago set aside a compact. And within this compact, they pledged each other to the Lord. And we celebrate every November in the United States Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving Day was a recreation of the celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles, where they came to the Lord thanking Him for the bountiful harvest and for the provision that they had. And this is exactly what the people of Israel are doing. How can we come up to Jerusalem with all of our bounty and not give thanks to Adonai? In the simplest way, when somebody bestows a gift on us, it's proper that we write them a thank you note. That we acknowledge, thank you for thinking of us. Thank you for your generosity. In the very same way, this is what we do every time we lay aside a gift for Adonai. In the rear of our sanctuary, we have a tzedakah box. Anyone desirous to leave a gift for the congregation could utilize that tzedakah box. For those joining us live stream, we are hooked into PayPal, and it's very easy to leave a gift for the congregation. Amen. So that said, I want to bring a message that's ever so relevant. It's an election season, and I want to tell you right up front, my vote is for Moses. I am going to vote for Moses. I wish Moses were running for office. You see, Moses is a most amazing man. And there are times when you think about certain things and they challenge the way that you think. They challenge the way that you pray. And it used to be that the thing was, I pray that I would have the mind of Messiah. Do you want to have the mind of Messiah? I do. I want to think like Him. I want to do things the way He did. I want to exercise perfect faith. But any good counselor and expert will tell you that if you're trying to accomplish something, set for yourselves realistic goals. So as much as I want the mind of Messiah, I can't compare myself to God unless, for example, I am a cult leader and refer to myself as such. But that isn't going to happen anytime soon. Should that take place, I think my wife will take me out of the picture instantly. So then my thinking gravitates to be like Moses. To be like Moses. So humble and holy. Oh, to be like Moses. But then again, I am setting my expectations way, way too high. So I've come up with a plan. Might not work for you. I don't know how well it's working for me. But just for starters, I think I could serve the Lord better than Cain, Lamech, Ahab, or others. So I'm setting the bar super low so that I can come away and build on those things. So where am I going with all of this? See, we are about to close out another cycle of readings. Next week, we're going to be rolling back our scroll in our celebration of Simchat Torah, rejoicing over the Torah. And when I read the way the book of Deuteronomy closes out, I find that Moses is such a menschy individual. This is one class individual. And it causes me to reflect on the greatness of Moses. He was the glue that held it all together. He faced murmuring. He faced backbiting, rebellion. He was the victim of so many smear campaigns. You think what the president's going through now? You think about what Moses had to go through. And yet, he maintained the vision God had given him. And this is the mark of a true leader. To borrow from the old Timex commercial, to take a licking and keep on ticking. So he upheld that higher ground. And in this season of Sukkot, you know, there is this lesson in this for me as a shepherd, and there is a lesson for all of us to embrace. This is Hoshanah Rabah, that last day of Sukkot, a festival of ingathering, a festival that will prophetically culminate when God's house will certainly be a house of prayer for all peoples. So I want to have you turn to my text in Deuteronomy 33, 1 through 4. Now, I don't know why I keep saying that. I'm stuck in the past. Everything is right up on the big board, or should be up on the big board. But if I could ask you to stand and stretch a little bit for the blessing over our Torah reading this morning. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'omim ve'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen. This is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed Bnei Yisrael before his death. He said, Adonai came from Sinai and dawned on Bnei Yisrael from Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran, and he came from the holy myriads, blazing fire for them from his right hand. Indeed, a lover of peoples is he. All his kedoshim are in his hand. They followed in your steps, each receiving your words. The Torah Moses commanded us, a heritage for the community of Jacob. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betuchenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen. Please be seated. Remove your earplugs. The singing part is over. But I want to begin with the words of the Talmud in Tractate Menachot 27a. There are 4 things taken up on Sukkot. 2 of them, the palm and the etrog, bear fruit. The 2 others, the myrtle and the willow, bear no edible fruit. But all of them are needed to observe the commandment. In like manner, when Israel fasts and prays for God's aid in the hour of calamity, those who study the Torah and observe the commandments, and those who are unlearned and fail to observe the commandments, must all unite in prayer and fasting if they wish God to answer them. There is a unity, and unity is our strength. We may have many calls, but we have one vision. We may have many giftings, but it is one vision. Many creative and thoughtful ideas, but one vision. We represent many different ethnicities, likes and dislikes, but we are unified in our purpose, mission, and vision. Having that unity of the Spirit in a bond of peace is precious, it's valuable. A community of faith cannot exist apart from unity. Simple logic would tell you that a divided community sounds like an oxymoron. You can't have much community without common unity. The reminder is reminiscent of the one that was authored by Rabbi Shaul in 1 Corinthians 12. Now there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit gives them. Also, there are different ways of serving, but it is the same Lord being served. And there are different modes of working, but it is the same God working them all in everyone. The Torah closes out in a dramatic, bittersweet way. At the end of many years of trial and ordeal, Moses stood atop a mountain and he gazed upon Canaan, the promised land, knowing well that he would not be entering with the people that he loved and led. At no time during all of those years in the desert was his longing to enter the land as strong as it was in this moment, where he could see it, but he couldn't enter. But yet Moses knew that as he gazed upon the land, he was also facing the hour of his death. In death, as in life, his number one priority was for the unity of the people. He wanted them to be unified in their loyalty and allegiance to the Almighty. It wasn't an allegiance to him, although he would have enjoyed it, but it was an allegiance to the Almighty and to obey his commands. Separately and individually, they could never arrive safely in the Promised Land. Separately and individually, they could never withstand an enemy. Separately and individually, they could never become a great nation that God had called them to be. In his final oratory, Moses chooses to take the higher ground, and he bestows blessing. The people gave him so much service, so much trouble. They oftentimes wanted him dead. They grumbled and they rebelled continually. Yet in his heart, his parting words were to bless and not to kvetch. When the patriarch Jacob was on his deathbed, he revealed the sins of his sons in what some may be as a kvetching lament. Moses, however, goes out in a much different way. Moses ever remains that classy man of God whose love for Israel knew no bounds, even willing to be blotted out of the book of life for their sake. He sees the good, and he focuses on the unique gifts and character of each tribe. Each tribe had a distinctive character, and Moses desired to see them relate to one another in a unity of spirit and a bond of peace. Even more, he knows of what the power of God can do to dramatically transform one's heart, to conform us into his image. He was a living proof. He sought for God. He had a conscience that didn't like to see his people being oppressed, but it was meeting the Lord in a burning bush experience that turned his entire life around, where he was able to face down every imaginable fear that there was, risking his life on a daily basis because of the love for his people and the vision to remove slavery and enter into a new realm of freedom. In this great season of Sukkot, we enjoy something great and something special among us. Ours is a celebration that's not like anything of what our people are observing, because we have found the Messiah. We see these things. The importance of being Jewish and finding the Messiah is paramount, but there's so much more. Many from the nations whom God has supernaturally grafted into Israel's natural olive tree are prophetic reminders of a time when all of the nations will come to Jerusalem to worship the God of Israel. We represent many calls, but one vision. Many ethnicities and backgrounds, but one vision. Many likes and dislikes, but one vision. Many giftings, but one vision. Many creative and thoughtful ideas, but one purpose, mission, and vision. The American landscape can be defined by the Latin inscription that's found on all of our coinage, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Our country, our world is fractured, and for many reasons. Chief among them is that we are leaving God out of the picture and in the hands of human reason and intellect. No God, no morals, no peace. Political platforms that have no place for God should be given little consideration. We're fractured because we've lost that founding vision that was based and founded upon the living God. This is how out of many we could become one, because there was this mutual respect of every faith that came to this great land. So Deuteronomy 33:1, this is the blessing that Moshe, the man of God, spoke over the people of Israel before his death. He bestows a blessing of honor to each. A lesser man could have put the blame on the very tribes, but he is bringing a blessing. Moses acknowledges in Deuteronomy 3:26, for example, God was angry with me because of you. And again, God was angry with me on your account, as he swore that I could not cross the Jordan, that I could not come to the good land. Deuteronomy 4:21. Yet, although he felt that they were the cause for his being denied his most fervent desire, Moses did not harbor resentments against his own people. Oh, like I said, to be like Moses. To be like Moses, so meek and lowly, humble and holy. Oh, to have the mind of Moses. To be so forgiving. Instead of cursing, instead of getting angry, instead of seething in resentment, instead of pleading in the injustice of it all, he offers blessings to them from his heart. His agenda was not self, but on the God that he loved and served. And this is a real mensch, a classy guy, a man of God. And when I think of Moses, in light of the last 2 chapters of this reading cycle, he is the epitome of everything Yeshua was teaching in his Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely on account of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So this is dynamic. These are the 9 baruchas. Baruch atah Adonai. Blessed are those. I wish there were 10. It would just resonate, and you can compare 10 commandments, 10 baruchas. But in Deuteronomy 33:3, indeed, he loves the people. All your holy ones are in your hand, and they followed in your steps. Everyone receives of your words. Moses charged us with a law, a possession for the people of Jacob. Moses lived with a forward vision, and he died with a forward vision. When Israel clamored for a return to Egypt, he challenged them to move forward, to seize the inheritance that God had prepared for them. When the times were tough, when he was virtually standing alone, he never lost sight of the ultimate vision. And let us never lose sight of our ultimate vision in the face of opposition, whether it comes from our people, whether it comes from the church, whether it comes from the secular world in so many different ways. Let us keep on moving forward for the things of Messiah. What we do is the only way to transform this world from death into life. Only the work that we do can bring ultimate tikkun olam and the ultimate prophetic destiny of Sukkot. And I don't say these things to be boastful, but I say these things to be current and with the words that Rabbi Shaul had offered in Romans chapters 9 through 11. Moses, the man of God, went out with blessing on his lips. And there is something to be said about being confident in God. There is something to be said about the importance of giving a compliment. Encouraging words go a long way to producing harmony, projecting purpose, and promoting unity. Give a kind word every now and then. It pays great, great dividends. Moses ends his days with dignity, courage, and confidence. And this is the blessing that Moshe, the man of God, spoke. He bestows a blessing of honor. A lesser man would have gone out with a whimper. Moses forgives the people, and the people have remorse for making his life so miserable. The people didn't always agree with Moses, but when they allowed him to truly lead, the whole nation was blessed. And sometimes it took a great amount of judgment on the people who came against him, but he went forward and he took his people with him. And no doubt this was in the thoughts of Rabbi Shaul when he says this in Hebrews 13:17. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they keep watch over your souls as one who must give an account. Let them do this with joy and not with groaning, for that would be of no benefit to you. On this day, some 2,000 years ago, before a packed house in Jerusalem, the largest gathering of the year, one celebrated with great joy, a time when all Jerusalem was lit up and most festive, with shofars sounding and priests marching in procession with libations of water. Amidst all of the pomp and celebration, Yeshua said this to the multitudes at Sukkot, if anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as the Scripture says, out of his innermost being will flow rivers of living water. Now he said this about the Ruach, whom those who trusted in were going to receive. For the Ruach was not yet given, since Yeshua was not yet glorified. Living waters. The purpose of this celebration of Shemini Atzeret. Living waters. We need continual living waters. If you cease to water your plants in your house or outside, bad things are going to happen. We need living waters to stay alive and to keep above the fray. And the fray is out there and it is very real. And it takes its toll on our heart. It takes its toll on our mind. Keep above the fray. Have a fresh infusion of living water. Living water is when we are touched and changed by God's power working in us. And it brings refreshing, it brings hope, it brings life, and it transforms us internally and radically. It enables us to love completely and to respect and honor even those with whom we may differ. See, in this season of joy, let's remember the mercy of God that has forgiven us, brought us atonement, and assured us of being written in His book of life. The Hebrew word for mercy is rachamim. Beautiful thing about rachamim is that it's a plural ending. In Hebrew, you can't say mercy singular, it's plural. God's rachamim is not a one-time deal, but for every time we need it, there are many, many mercies. It's enough for not just sin, but for bad sins too. It's enough for very, very bad sins as well. His rachamim. You know, we give thanks to the Lord, Ki le'olam chasto, for His mercies endure forever. Likewise, the word for sin is chet, and it's singular. And there is a lesson here that our sins are great, but mercy is even greater. His rachamim is enough to cleanse every sin and failure with mercies to spare. So I say it covers even bad sins, very, very bad sins. I said at the outset that maybe I can compare myself to Cain, Lamech, Ahab. I want you to see something amazing about King Ahab when we're talking about the rachamim of the Holy One of Israel. And I'll close with this, 1 Kings 21, verse 25. Surely there was none like Ahab, who sold himself over to do evil in Adonai's eyes at the instigation of Jezebel his wife. He did grossly loathsome acts in following idols, just like all that the Amorites had done, whom Adonai dispossessed before the children of Israel. So anyway, when you read about all of the kings of Israel, it was always who could be the biggest and baddest. This was the biggest and baddest. God said he did grossly loathsome things, that there was none like Ahab who sold himself to doing evil. So now the rachamim continues, verse 27. Now when Ahab heard those words, these are the words of the prophet, convicting him of his sin, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth on his body, fasted, lay in sackcloth, and walked about subdued. Then the word of Adonai came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Elijah, have you seen how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring evil in his days. This is the rachamim of God. There is nothing that you can do that's so horrendous that the rachamim of God, through the finished work of Messiah, cannot cure and heal. This is the beauty of these days. God desires one day that we would all day be alive with living waters in the fullness of His kingdom. And we long for in these days but a foretaste of that world to come. Lamentations 3:22. This ought to be put to song. Because of the mercies of Adonai, we will not be consumed, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. See, this is an amazingly great time of the year. Next week, we close out the reading cycle. The community, the Jewish community, will do that today. But we would like to extend our festival. We like an additional week of celebration. But I'd like for everybody to stand. There is something that is traditional, and it's something that is beautiful, that when we complete each book of the Torah, there is something that we say to encourage one another, even more so when we complete the yearly cycle of readings. And we're going to say together, I'll say it, and then we'll do it in unison. Chazak, chazak, v'nit sadak. And it means be strong, and strengthen one another.